The Conservancy's last message was still on the console when I counted the remaining air. Not a dramatic thing, that message. No regret in it, no ceremony. Just the standard denial form, the kind they send when a petition has been reviewed and found to fall below the threshold of mention. I had read it so many times in the 6 days since it arrived that I no longer needed to look at the screen. Census. 11,340 confirmed surviving Vel-Amhari, minimum viable resettlement threshold, 50,000. Atmospheric degradation timeline, estimated 19 to 24 days to total surface uninhabitability. Conservancy transport allocation, not warranted. File closed. File closed. I am Surah Keth of the Autumn Caravan, elder of the 3rd Migration Circuit, and I have lived 81 years on a world that is now, as I write this, below a breathable atmosphere in the lowlands. The plains my popple walked for 10,000 seasons are under a layer of particulate, haze that no Vel-Amhari lung can process. The highland camps held us through the worst of it, and when the highlands went too, we loaded what we could carry onto 6 refugee transports and a cargo barge that had been stripped and fitted with emergency berths, and we left. 7 ships, 11,340 people, 3 weeks of recycled air, if nothing failed. We drifted into the Calix approach lane and sent our distress registration to every relay in range. The Conservancy hub at Velarath, the Syndicate way station at the edge of the lane, the Freeport at Kethmanor. The Syndicate sent an automated acknowledgement. Freeport sent nothing. The Conservancy's reply when it came was the form I described. File closed. We were below threshold. The math did not support the allocation. I want you to understand what that silence felt like from inside the lead transport. Spurker. Amhar's rest. With 11,000 of my people breathing slowly to conserve what we had. The children had been moved to the forward compartments, where the recyclers were newest. The elderly and the sick were aft, where the air was slightly thinner and no one said so aloud. My granddaughter, Velissa, sat beside me at the observation console and asked, once, whether someone was coming. I told her I was still waiting for word. That was not entirely a lie, I was waiting. I simply did not believe the word would come. On the morning of the 7th day, it came. I was at the console. I slept there, those last days, because I could not make myself move far from the communications board when the proximity alert sounded. Not a distress ping, a transit emergence. Something dropping out of faster than light, travel in the approach lane ahead of us, and then something else, and then something else again, in a spread pattern that my board read as a convoy formation. I counted the emergent signatures as they resolved. 1, 2, 4, 7, 9, 12. 12 ships. I sat very still. The Vel-Amhari do not pray the way some species do, but we have a word. Amhar Seth. For the moment when something you had stopped believing in arrives anyway. I did not say it aloud. I did not trust my voice. The lead ship's identification came through before their hail did. GSV Constant Meridian. Registered to the Earth Humanitarian Reach Division, out of the Sol Transit Hub. Behind her, 4 heavy transports. Capacity listings scrolling faster than I could read them. Berths in the thousands, each one. A hospital vessel. Restless Care. With its medical bay codes broadcasting on the open channel. 2 frigates flying escort. Engines hot, positioned wide on the convoy's flanks. And behind those, in the cargo formation, 3 low-profile ships I did not immediately recognize. Bulk haulers running sealed atmospheric containers, habitat domes, pre-staged, already loaded before they left Sol. The hail came through. A human voice, female unhurried. Vel-Amhari convoy, this is Captain Sarah Odiambo of Constant Meridian. We have your registration and your census. We have capacity for 11,340 persons, plus supplies, plus whatever personal cargo your ships are carrying. The Care is cycling her intake bay now. Please transmit your medical priority list, and we'll begin triage sequencing. How much air do you have left? I realized I had been holding my breath, which was, under the circumstances, not sensible. 14 days, I said. Possibly 16 if we reduce activity levels. Then we're not in a hurry, she said. But we're not going to waste time either. Start moving your most critical cases toward the Restless Care. Take them first. That was all. No speech, no ceremony. She had already moved on to coordinating with her own ships by the time I found my voice again. My granddaughter Velissa had woken and come to stand beside me. She was looking through the observation glass at the human convoy now arrayed across our approach lane, at the transports with their running lights, in patient formation, at the hospital ship with its ramp already cycling, at the two frigates sitting wide and quiet in the dark. She was 7 years old, and she had grown up hearing that the Vel-Amhari were a small people, a diminishing people the galaxy had largely stopped counting. She pressed her hand flat against the glass and did not say anything for a long time. They came, she said finally. Yes, I said. How many of them? I looked at the manifest still scrolling on my board. For Constant Meridian. Alone was carrying a crew of 218. The 4 transports together were running skeleton crews. They had stripped their own recreational space and officer quarters to add berths. The hospital ship had 43 medical staff. The frigates, combined, another 160. Enough, I told her. The transfer took 11 hours. Restless. Care. The sick first. Our elderly, our infants. The 46 people who had been breathing the thinning air longest, and whose lungs the ship's physician, a quiet human woman named Dr. Vant, assessed one by one at the intake bay with a calm so practiced it was almost indistinguishable from indifference, except that her hands never stopped moving, and she never once looked at her board when a patient was in front of her. She looked at them. That detail stays with me. The transports took families in organized waves. The human crews moved through our ships with portable recyclers and meal canisters, extending our air by hours while the transfers ran, and no one asked to be thanked for it. The cargo haulers began deploying the habitat dome assemblies into the transport holds before the last. Families had boarded, pre-configured, pre-sealed, ready for a permanent settlement on whatever world Earth had arranged. I did not yet know which world. Captain Odiambo told me, when I asked, that there were 3 candidate sites, and we would review them together once. Everyone was aboard and rested. She said it the way someone says. We'll discuss the route after the children are in bed. Practical, unhurried, certain. I was the last Vel-Amhari to leave the Amhar's rest. I had intended to be. Someone had to confirm the ship was clear, and the task belonged to the elder of the caravan, and I was the only elder left. I walked every berth, every compartment, the stripped cargo holds where families had slept on folded blankets for 7 days. The air was bad by then. Not dangerous, but thin enough to make the edges of things soften. I stood for a moment in the space where the children had slept and looked at the marks their small hands had left on the bulkhead walls, pressing against the metal, the way my granddaughter had pressed against the glass. Then I walked down the boarding ramp and onto the restless care. A human medic was waiting at the base of the ramp, young, male, with the quiet, efficient posture of someone trained to move injured people without making them feel moved. He took my elbow with one hand and steadied me down the last step, and I realized my legs were not working as reliably as I had believed. He said something to me then. One word, perhaps 2. I could not fully parse the register. My translator was set for operational speech, not the softer human frequencies. I have never translated it for anyone. I do not intend to. What I can tell you is this. Restless care. Ramp closed behind me with the sound of a seal catching, clean and final. Through the porthole, beside the intake bay, I watched the Amhar's rest recede. My world's arc, faint and brown at the edge of the visible, and I thought of the Conservancy's form, cached, still on a console that no one would ever read again. File closed, population below viable threshold, reallocation not warranted. 11,340 people, breathing clean air, in the holds of 12 human ships, heading toward 3 candidate worlds that a species we had barely spoken to had quietly arranged. The math, apparently, had been wrong. Perhaps the humans are simply using different numbers.